We are about to delve into our current affairs for this evening. We know that the Botswana former president Masisi has stepped aside and conceded defeat after the shock outcome for the governing Botswana Democratic Party. The BDP lost its parliamentary majority after nearly 6 decades in power. Botswana's Electoral Commission has announced that opposition Umbrella for Democratic Change, or better known as UDC, has won a majority in the parliament and can form the next government. We are joined by Dithapelo, who is part of the Umbrella for Democratic Change, a member of parliament for the Selibwe Phikwe, joins us this evening just to delve a bit more into the elections and their recent success. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Prime Live.
Hello, good evening to you, and thank you for having us on this platform.
It's such a privilege for you to be able to join us this evening, and thank you for joining us on such short notice. I know our viewers were really looking forward to finding out more about the election. But to start off our conversation this evening, can you talk us more through what is actually the mood at the moment in Botswana since the election?
Well, Botswana are imbued with euphoria. They are elated. They are very happy. They've been longing for a change of government, which they, in their view, they really deserved it. I mean, the ruling party has been at the helm since independence in 1966. So that's about 58 years. So they were really, they needed this change. So they are very happy. I've just addressed our masses here in Phikwe at a victory rally. So the mood, it's hysterical.
Thank you for sharing that. I think we're seeing a lot of African countries go through drastic transition and complete changes in governance. We've also seen the same with the Zambia as well. What I also want to talk about is Botswana has been seen as one of the more stable democracies in Africa, but not many people knew one party was actually in charge for almost 60 years, as you've mentioned. How was the BDP able to dominate politics for such a long time in Botswana? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's a subject that I've dealt with in my past life as an academic, but I've also dealt with as a practitioner active in politics. It's a very critical question that many observers have tried to answer. But you see, the ruling party, when it got into power, the economy of the country sort of revolved around the state. The state became a key institution, very influential in the economy, the biggest buyer, the biggest seller, the biggest regulator, and all that. So big business initially decided to align with the ruling party. So in other words, the ruling party put in place measures to make sure that it is extremely difficult for the
Apologies. I think we are losing connection. Viewers at home, we will try our best to get him back online so we can resume the conversation. I think we do have you back. Are you with us?
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. Please do continue.
I was about to say measures were put in place, tough measures were put in place to make it difficult. One of them was that the state media became, instruments through which the ruling party, campaigned with under the guise of disseminating government policy. The big business decided to fund the ruling party and in turn got government jobs. And there was no public funding of political parties. Even on these elections, there was no public funding of political parties. So opposition parties funded for themselves, and it made it very, very difficult. But one other thing is that the laws, the way they are structured, are that we are a first past the post kind of electoral system. That is what we practice here, and it's a system that we copied from England. So power ought to have changed in 2014, in which the ruling party lost the majority. But because it was first past the post, the ruling party managed to win. So these are some of the measures that perpetuated the reigns of the ruling party in power. And the other thing, of course, was that there was no formidable single opposition party apart from the Botswana National Front, which split in 1998, which really showed a huge following and made threats to take over from the ruling BDP. From then on, it has been a struggle to get opposition parties together because we are a small population, and it's difficult for a single party, to win a government. And Umbrella for Democratic Change, that is a coalition registered as a political party. Is not just a singular unitary party. It's a combination of members of the Alliance for Progressives, members of the Botswana National Front, members of the Botswana People's Party, and some previous members of Botswana Congress Party and Botswana Patriotic Front. So it's a coalition, even though it's a coalition registered as a political party, to satisfy the ordinances of forming a government.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, you provided a lot of detail and information for our viewers at home just to understand why 60 years and how they were able to maintain power for such a long time. So thank you for that. In terms of whether or not anyone could have possibly predicted this outcome, what were the main issues that Advocate Duma Boko campaigned on?
Well, Advocate Duma Boko campaigned on a platform of restoring the economy, which is in tatters. We have reached what economists will say we are in a recession. I mean, if we have negative growth in successive quarters, then it means we are officially in a recession. Diamonds, which is the mainstay of the economy, have not been selling for 10 months. We're an economy that is as I say, the mainstay is this diamonds mineral sector. And it's undiversified and is not even integrated at a domestic level to a high degree. So it's a fragile economy that is unable to withstand shocks. It was unable to withstand the shock in the global meltdown in around 2008, 2009. It was hit hard by COVID. So it's an economy that really is susceptible to external shocks. So he campaigned on a platform of bread and butter issues. Improving wages in terms of pursuing high wage economy and not a low wage economy, which was the economic policy of the outgoing party. He campaigned on democracy in Botswana consolidating, not just by the ruling party losing and giving way to the opposition, as Samuel Huntington, one of the greatest scholars of democracy, has said, but also meaning that when you measure Botswana's democracy using profound yardsticks, it ought to pass in terms of independent institutions such as parliament, independent judiciary that is trusted, that has integrity, that is impartial, including institutions that support democracy, such as the public protector or ombudsman, such as the Supreme Audit Institution, the Auditor General, such as the Directorate on Corruption and Economic Crime and Anti-Corruption Agency, and many others which ought to support democracy. We have been having these institutions stifled in terms of resources, in terms of lack of tenure of security for the heads, in terms of these institutions not being independent, but being part of the mainstream, civil service. So we campaigned on, or Advocate Boko campaigned on, making sure that this democracy consolidates, but most importantly, on economic issues, alleviating poverty, creating jobs, because the economy, unemployment levels are, at unprecedented levels. Unemployment stands at more than 27%. Youth unemployment stands at more than 34%. And we're a small population. In terms of our economy, we ought to be, that is what the IMF says, the World Bank says, that we have, levels of unemployment, levels of inequalities, levels of poverty that, are not normally seen or are not usually seen in, upper middle income countries. So we are faring badly. So the economy was the most important issue on which this election was won by Advocate Boko and the UDC.
So thank you so much for joining us this evening, as well as sharing some insight into what the UDC hopes for the next 5 years for Botswana. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having us. We hope to be engaging further in terms of how our government plans will unfold.
Thank you so much. Viewers at home, that was Botswana's UDC party, newly appointed government after 60 years under the ruling party. The opposition has won power and governance in Botswana, and he shared some insight into what they believe will be the future and what their hopes and aspirations are for the next 5 years for Botswana. But viewers at home, on that note, it is time for us to head over to an ad break, and we'll come right back.